Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, professors, it's an honor for me to be here and to give my presentation in witness protection and European security. I started studying law in 2003 in the Faculty of Law, University of Shkodra in Albania. And then after 4 years that I studied law, international law, and human rights law, a lot of questions came into my mind, and for a moment I thought that maybe I'm not becoming intelligent. Maybe I'm becoming a bit stupid because I have a lot of questions and no answers. That's why I further my studies in international human rights law in Lund University in Sweden. And in the first day that I arrived there, I read this quotation from the Conference on Human Rights in 1993 in Vienna. And it was, human rights, know them, demand them, and defend them. Actually, I am in the stage of knowing them and demanding them, and hopefully in the future defending them. So the topic that I want to discuss with you today is witness protection and European security. It's a topic related to my master thesis in Sweden. It's witness protection, international criminal court. And now my PhD is on witness protection in international tribunals, European legislation, international legislation towards a Council of Europe Convention on Witness Protection and Collaborators of Justice. During my studies and my research on witness protection, I came through two quotations from Bentham and one of the distinguished French professors, Claude Lebois. And they say that witnesses are the eyes and the ears of justice. And the French professor said that in a fragile basis, you cannot establish something that is very strong. The purpose of my paper is focusing general in the present situation in the Balkans on the basis of the experience of specific countries such as Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and another experience that I want to take into the consideration to the paper is the experience with the witness protection programs in the ICTY and ICC. But I want to leave a little bit apart the witness protection programs in Africa. Another thing that I'm going to discuss in the paper are some guidelines for the witness protection scheme, and applying these guidelines as recommendations to the present EU and non-EU countries' process of policy development in this field. And one of my recommendations is that there must be a binding framework, as actually it does not exist, on witness protection, and that is a convention of witness protection, but I'm going to discuss it later. Some of the points, some of the keywords that I'm going to that my research is based on is the protection of witnesses are a cornerstone for justice and reconciliation in the Balkans. Definition of the terms, concept of witness protection programs, and how what are the laws and the bylaws in the Balkan region, but also in the European Union. What are the basic rights of the witness in criminal proceedings? I'm going to focus more on the experience of international criminal tribunals, ICTY, ICC, and also the European Court of Human Rights. In the paper, I'm also going to deal about the notion of anonymity, and unfortunately, from an EULEX perspective, for example in Kosovo, but also taking into consideration also the Balkans, it is a protection measure still ineffective. I'm going to talk also in the paper about the forgotten souls. They are called witnesses, are called sometimes forgotten souls. And the importance of witness protection in the Balkans. what are the protection measures and the programs in Albania, Serbia, Kosovo, Slovenia, and European Union, and the regional and international cooperation, vertical and horizontal unification of a unique witness protection program. Why the protection of witnesses are considered as a cornerstone for justice and reconciliation in the Balkans? This was a phrase, this was a term, or let's say that it was a statement from the deputy of the Council of Europe, Mr. Cardeto, who in 2010 and 2011, he started in fact from 2008, to deal with witness protection, especially in the Balkans, and considering as a reconciliation for the Balkans. And he wrote this report in the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights in the Parliamentary Assembly. It was a provisional version, and from 2010, he talked a little bit from 2011. We are in 2013, 2012, and 13, no talkings about witness protection programs. And this is weird, but after this report, some of the deputies of in the Council of Europe, they stated that we're going to talk about witness protection in 2014. And it's weird. The definition of terms, unfortunately, from the perspective of the European Court of Human Rights, we don't have a specific definition of the notion of witnesses. There are only two definitions. Sometimes there are also from the national legislation, there are definitions, but I took into consideration only international definition. And one of the definitions is in the recommendation R9713 on the intimidation of witnesses and rights of the defense from the Council of Europe. And it stated that, well, you actually have this here, and I don't need to read it. And another definition of the notion of the witness is also from the Council of Europe, but this time it's not a recommendation, it's a resolution on the protection of witnesses who cooperate in the fight against the organized crime. But why? The question is, because during the paper I've done a lot of questions and I was trying to give answers. Why an effective witness protection to enhance security? Why it is important the witness protection programs to establish security, not only in the Balkans but also in Europe? Because also from a perspective EULEX, they say that we are trying to establish an effective witness protection in Kosovo, but also we are trying to effect also in Albania, in Serbia, in other countries of the region. And witness protection are not only, they say that the witness protection is not just a problem for the Balkans, it's a problem also to the European Union. As far as we have witness protection programs, witness protection measures only in the national point of view, but not a binding legal framework that could be obligatory to the whole member states of the European Union. So the aim of the witness protection in this paper is first to provide and ensure effective protection for those actors, so I mean witness, whose life is at risk as a consequence of their testimony. And I'm talking about legal instruments and special institutions. Unfortunately, there is a kind of, I said before, it's a problem because we have this legal instruments only in the national legislation. We have a lot of good, very, very good laws, but they lack the implementation into practice, an effective implementation into practice. And the special institutions, unfortunately, for example, I'm taking the example of the International Criminal Court in The Hague, and it's a problem that there it's stated in the Rome Statute, but also in the rules of the court, that the prosecutor and the court can give witness protection measures. And sometimes this is an overlapping of roles, because the prosecution gives, you know, very low measures for witness protection, and the court sometimes they say that, okay, these witnesses have to be protected with the extreme measures, and so there was this overlapping of roles. So that's why I'm talking about special institutions that don't have so much liaison, relations to the other institutions, especially governmental institutions. The second is to support the operations of criminal justice system in practice, because I said before we have very, very good laws, but these good laws are not going to be, they are ineffective in practice. And then, and overall, I want to, I claim in my paper that we must have a unique witness protection program. Considering that there are several types of crimes, we have to take into consideration the fact that we live in a time of globalization, and there are a lot of transnational crimes. There are not only national crimes, but also transnational crimes. That's why we need a unique witness protection program. Security in the Western Balkans, it is a prelude of European integration. Unfortunately, the current systems, they have a very low progress in the witness protection. All these material are taken from, are highlighted by the progress reports of the countries of the Western Balkans. There are a lot of protected witnesses that have been intimidated, that have been threatened, and that have been killed. And as a key priority to European integration, security and protection are the next step to follow, considering that the EU is ready to help Western Balkans. It was a declaration of the European Union that the Western Balkans are totally assisted by the European Union, especially in the relocation of the witnesses into threatened and intimidated witnesses into the European Union countries. So, witness protection programs depend on the implementation of binding laws, and when I talk about binding laws, I talk about international binding laws, because the national are generally good, especially for the establishment of specific institutions. But the implementation of binding laws comes into requirement of considerable financial assistance, and we know the crisis that the European Union is passing. So the European Union security in regards to witness protection depends on binding European international legislation, financial assistance, and regional and international collaboration. Enforcement. As I said before, there is no binding legal framework. There is no convention. There are just recommendations and resolutions from the Council of Europe, from United Nations, and from European Union. And these kind of instruments that actually exist, they just promote standard of witness protection across the member states. So there are two problems here. They promote standards of witness protection, and only across member states. So enforcement, there is a question. Basing on one of my professors, Giorgio Gaia, he is a judge in the International Court of Justice in The Hague. After his presentation, he always put a rabbit into the PowerPoints, because he wanted to show that it's what he is going to say, it's his personal point of view, it's his argument, and maybe it's weak, maybe it's strong, maybe it's fast, it's rapid like a rabbit, but maybe, you know, he was afraid because maybe this was not legal. I'm not, in my presentation I'm not using a rabbit because it's plagiarism. I'm not. If I'm going to talk about ratifications, I'm going maybe to use a rat. I'm not going to use a rat, but I'm going to use another thing. As an international human rights lawyer, I think that I have all the qualifications to come with a new thing, and this new thing is the Convention of Witness Protection. So I'm going to use another animal, and it's a koala. I don't want that my presentation be boring. Maybe boring will be on the paper while you will read it. So I'm going to now I'm going just to say some points. We have already national legislation. We already have witness protection programs, but we don't have any international binding document, and there is no efficient result. So the weapon here, it's just, you know. So the conclusion is that, and recommendations are that we need a global proactive solution, not populist ideas anymore, because we are dealing with human rights, and we are dealing with the right of life, actually, and witness protection is very sensitive. That's why we need proactive solutions and movement. The national laws and bylaws are an important asset to enhance the protection of witnesses, because my point of view is that it doesn't come always from international to national, but it's step by step, national, region, and then international. So if we have an international framework that is obligatory to the member states, it means that even the national legislation is going to be more enforced. Some of the solution is full implementation of the recommendations on witness intimidation of witnesses and the right of the defense, and it is also the recommendation on the protection of witnesses and collaborators for justice. There are two legal frameworks from the Council of Europe. An autonomous authority to deal only with witness protection. This was a recommendation from UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Investigation, prosecution of perpetrators of witnesses, people who disclose information, the identity, and so on, who intimidated witnesses. A unique or unification of witness protection program, both by legislation and cooperation between the regional neighbors, and by the legal instrument, that is convention on the protection of witnesses, that will be obligatory to all the member states. So maybe it's up to the international institutions to create this, to establish this convention of witness protection from the Council of Europe or maybe from the United Nations. Thank you.